All right, I think we're live. Push one in the chat if you can hear me. All right, I see a one in the chat. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is an open chat 104. Just please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, hit the notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. All right, man, this is gonna be real quick. You know, I usually don't like to go live as much as I used to on the channel because I want to really preserve the bandwidth for the channel so that we could do other things like pre-records and stuff like that. However, what's happening the last few weeks, let me give you a quick synopsis. Joe Biden, President Biden, dropped out from the race uh, for November and endorsed Kamala Harris, the vice president, as his um, candidate. And what's been happening here, as you see in the thumbnail, um, you have people making these sort of comments. And I didn't even know some of these other comments that came in just the last few days, because I typically don't check all that often, are being said about us. And what I'm hearing from a lot of folks is that this vote blue no matter who thing, right? Let me give a quick background on this vote blue no matter who. Most black people live in key battleground states. Okay. When you live in areas that are predominantly, Democrat, not Republican, then who's on the ballot determines who you can vote for. And so you vote based on who's available. Republicans are typically not on the ballot in a lot of these areas, and the Republicans that happen to be on the ballot don't care about black people's issues. Whether you're talking about at the local level or at the state level or at the national level, right? You have congressmen, House of Representatives, and then you have senators that can get voted in every 6 years, and then you have a president that gets voted in every 4 years, and then you also have city council, aldermen, um, state senate roles, and other, sheriffs and things like that that typically go around. Voting is an every year process. It's not every 4 years. And so where black people live, they happen to live in these key battleground states. And what's happening here is that people are trying to make us out, or at least make me out, in DC as well, because DC's name is mentioned in that thumbnail screenshot. They're trying to make it seem like we're too incompetent to vote for anybody else. Now, these same people want us, or want Kamala for that matter, or somebody from the Democratic Party, to start talking about reparations. And these same people don't want to vote Democrat, but they want reparations from Democrats. But they have no sort of interest in asking Republicans about reparations. Okay. This doesn't make any sense. Why do you think black people vote Democrat? We've gone over this before. Most black people today, or I should say the black community today, is largely voting Democrat based on President Carter from 1977 to 1980. Okay. The thing here is, if you don't know the history, you're never going to understand why black people vote Democrat. And so you're asking these questions and making these sort of statements and allegations of, you just vote blue no matter who, you're a paid operative. Yeah, I live in Massachusetts. We have a pretty robust system here. It works just fine. why do you think that I would vote for, some other Republican who doesn't offer anything on the ticket? It doesn't make any whole lot of sense. But see, in the manosphere, you should vote against your interests, which means vote Republican and demand everything from Democrats, which makes absolutely no sense. And a lot of these guys um hang around in the space, say all these ridiculous things, and then they never get on the panel. So what I wanted to do today was to give these guys the opportunity to get on the panel. I heard Edward Anderson called me a paid operative. AB Media, he told me to shut the F up. Okay. T Riddler making all these comments from the chat room. Bruh, when y'all gonna pull up so we can actually have a conversation about politics, not based on what the memes of the day are? Because what's happening in this space right now is that people are going to TikTok or going to YouTube Shorts or whatever platform they go to, Instagram or whatever it is, and that's how they engage politics. They engage politics from memes. They don't actually engage politics from a policy and legislative standpoint. They want to have a conversation about all this non-ancillary things that don't actually add any value to the conversation. You're not going to get away with that with me. I can tell you that right now. I'm not going to respond to that. So if you think I'm a paid operative, vote blue no matter who with your hashtag, come up on the panel. I'm gonna drop the link in the chat, and I want you to actually explain to me how you think I'm a paid operative or what the vote blue no matter who means. Explain that part. I'm gonna look in the chat real quickly before I drop this link in there. That Gianna girl says, I voted red most of my adult life, once for Trump and red on the local level. I only voted blue for once for Biden. I live in Indiana. But the thing here is, Gianna, is that Indiana is controlled by conservatives from the governor's mansion all the way down to the lower house. It's a conservative controlled state. Why a person who lives in Indiana is concerned about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and getting them out of office makes no sense to me, because all of your issues are local, right? All politics are local, um, like Ted said. Okay. And the thing here is, you can't blame the Democrats for anything in your state. Your state is controlled by Republicans from the mansion all the way down to the lower house. So if you have an issue in your state with how it's being run and how the monies are being doled out and things like that, you have to take that up with your local officials. You can't take that up with uh, people in DC. That makes no sense. And the thing is, I know they're watching because I got the alert, which I didn't even realize that I'm being mentioned. Let me drop this link in there. I don't want anybody else coming up. I just want AB Media or Edward Anderson or T Riddler, any of these guys who want to, cast this aspersion that I vote blue no matter who and I'm a paid operative. I would love for you to explain to me how I'm a paid operative. Okay. Because I don't get paid for nothing. We don't even have super chats in they. You know what, Gianna girl? Indiana is actually 40th in healthcare coverage. Okay, they're ranked 40th in the country out of 50 states. It's ranked 40th. At least under Mike Pence, I think it was. It was ranked 40th. 40 out of 50, out of 50 states. Your problem isn't Joe Biden and Kamala Harris at that point. Your problem is your state officials who run the state. Whether you're talking about your governor's mansion or you're talking about um, the upper and lower house, Senate and the Congress. Okay. Shaw Willie, how are you doing? Yeah, the thing here is, people want to make it seem as if Democrats are the problem. You live in a Republican controlled state, but you're complaining about Democrats. Makes absolutely no sense. Deani says some people are intimidated by intellect. It's more comfortable to troll and joke from the sidelines. Yeah, the thing here is, I think you can. I think there's room for banter and trolling and stuff like that. Jokes when we've already have come to some kind of consensus that we have a perfect grounding as to what's going on. What I'm seeing in the manosphere is the conversation starts off with the trolling. It never leads to the trolling. It just starts off from there. Like their whole entire position is predicated on you explaining to them what they don't know, and for them, in order for them to participate in the discussion. That to me, that's unacceptable. If you live in a place like Indiana, I'm just using Indiana as an example, you can't complain about what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing. Can't complain about that. The infrastructure bill, the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as the CHIPS and Science Bill, Indiana is benefiting greatly from all of this Democratic run legislation coming under Joe Biden in 2022. But yet you'll never hear people who complain about Democrats. They'll never complain about the legislation that they benefit from Democrats. I mean, who goes to like a Chicago Bulls game, or even like a yeah, who goes to your home team game and then root for the opposing team? Who does that? If you live in a Republican-controlled state, you should be talking to Republicans about how you're going to get reparations. But you don't do that. You ask Democrats for reparations as if everything is hinged on whatever Democrats do, when it really has nothing to do with Democrats. I mean, we just heard um, what's his face? JD Vance. He's against black people getting reparations. I don't even think people. He just said this the other day. Trump doesn't even talk about reparations, right? Nobody in the Republican Party is for reparations. Nobody, not even Byron Donald. Byron Donald was asked when he was in Atlanta about reparations, and he was against it. And nobody said anything about it in this space. They just allowed that to slide by. And I'm like, well, wait a second here. You're saying that, you know, I'm a shill for the Democrats, but what do you call this guy? And what do you call yourself if you don't call him out? Wesley Hunt, another one. He's not for reparations either. I haven't heard John James talk about reparations. All these people who are a part of the Republican Party, this idea that we should have both, black people should be in both parties. Yeah, that makes sense, strategically speaking. But when you start talking about the most pertinent issues, such as reparations, now all of a sudden, only one party is supposed to advocate for it, and the other party doesn't have to do anything. Now that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Gianna Girl says most people here vote red no matter what and complain that they are broke. Yeah, because Republicans are into budget cuts. Okay, and that means cutting social spending. But that's the thing, man. That's the thing. Where's Edward Anderson at? He had a whole lot to say. Buddy had a whole lot to say. Yeah, that's right, Deani. No acknowledgement of the billions paid back to black farmers, a la reparations. And guess who tried to block that? It was Republicans who tried to block it. In fact, they were very successful at blocking it, but nobody wants to talk about that though. But it's vote blue no matter who, right? Paid operative, right? I'm a shill. I'm a shill. You ask nothing of Republicans, but demand everything of Democrats. But I'm the shill and you're not. Makes absolutely no sense, man. How come I can't see everybody's comments? Chris Mo says the manosphere is just hating on Kamala because she's a woman who might win the presidency. They say the red pill is 360 degrees, but their hate for women in power will have them voting for a bigot. Hey, that's right. You ain't lied about that. You have not lied about that. Actually, let me play something for you really quickly. I have to be careful playing stuff around here because YouTube will try to flag you. Just give me a second. All right, let me share my screen real quick. All right, push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, got a confirmation. All right, let me play this clip really quickly.
In this country, at the turn of the century, we were tilling 20 million acres of land. We're down to 3 million acres of land. So we want our land, and I'm not going to give up the fight. By the grace of God, I think He's going to bring relief for Black farmers in the form of land ownership in this country.
Finally, the Republican vice presidential candidate JD Vance commented on these payouts, and I'd like to play the sound for you.
The Harris administration, for example, handed out farm benefits to people based on skin color. I think that's disgraceful. I don't think we should say you get farm benefits if you're a black farmer, you don't get farm benefits if you're a white farmer.
What's your response to him?
That he can say that to our nation's black farmers, the oldest occupation in history for black people in this country. We were slaves. We came through on Jim Crow. We came through on sharecropping. And to have someone who wants to be vice president of the United States make those types of comments, that's not the way of the future. That's not the way to bring this country together. But to have him say it was based on skin color when it was totally based on discrimination, and he knows that as a member of the Senate. So his comments to me are deplorable. And he needs to apologize to black people in this country and directly to black farmers.
John Boyd, founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association, thank you so much for joining us.
There's the facts. There's the facts. It was Harris who made this happen. Okay? When you say, oh, Kamala Harris, she doesn't fight for black people. She doesn't, she's not about reparations. That's exactly what this was about. Right? And here you have JD Vance, who was in the Senate, who argued against it. So how can you have a conversation about reparations and then say Democrats aren't doing anything when it was only Democrats that were the ones fighting for it, while Republicans were trying to block it? But remember, vote blue no matter who, right? Paid operative, right? Remember that? Remember that? Where these guys at now? Where these guys at now? Remember when those folks was over there with the lightsaber and he was talking about how JD Vance is a Yale graduate and he speaks so well. Remember that? Just a few weeks ago he was saying that. It was JD Vance and his buddies who were trying to organize to make sure that black farmers wouldn't get their just due. Those are reparations. Oh, I get it. We want to hear about Kamala's policies and agenda, how she's going to solve the deficit. These same people who want to talk about the deficit with their numbers, right? All these tax professionals and he's a banker, right? Remember that? They don't talk about the deficit when it comes to reparations. So what they want is reparations, but don't talk about don't talk to me about the deficit. But then when it comes to Kamala, she has to talk about the deficit and she has to talk about how she's going to get reparations. Well, reparations is going to add to the deficit anyways. So why do you care so much about the deficit? But that's what we're dealing with here. See, you got to come with facts. Got to come with facts. This is straight from the man's mouth. This is the leading black farmers advocate. Hmm? Who's trying to fight against that? What about Evanston, Illinois? Right? Shar, you're from Illinois. Who's trying to fight against those people in Evanston from getting their reparations based on redlining that happened before the FHA of 1968? Who's trying to fight against that? Let me play the clip again because, you know, these folks will have you thinking vote blue no matter who, but who's really advocating for who here? Hmm?
Put on the table, timber to build a house, clean drinking water. And when you lose the land, people, you lose a part of your identity, you lose a part of your history. And we've lost in this country. At the turn of the century, we were tilling 20 million acres of land. We're down to 3 million acres of land. So we want our land, and I'm not going to give up the fight. By the grace of God, I think he's going to bring relief for black farmers in the form of land ownership in this country.
Finally, the Republican vice presidential candidate JD Vance commented on these payouts, and I'd like to play the sound for you.
The Harris administration, for example, handed out farm benefits to people based on skin color. I think that's disgraceful. I don't think we should say you get farm benefits if you're a black farmer, you don't get farm benefits if you're a white farmer.
What's your response to him?
That he can say that to our nation's black farmers, the oldest occupation in history for black people in this country. We were slaves. We came through on Jim Crow. We came through on sharecropping. And to have someone who wants to be vice president of the United States make those types of comments, that's not the way of the future. That's not the way to bring this country together. But to have him say it was based on skin color when it was totally based on discrimination, and he knows that as a member of the Senate. So his comments to me are deplorable. And he needs to apologize to black people in this country and directly to black farmers.
John Boyd, founder and president of the National Black Farmers Association, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Here it is right here. Look at the caption. The average net income for black farmers in the U.S. is approximately $3,500, where the average net income for all farmers is $160,000. Vote blue no matter who, though, right? That's straight from JD Vance's mouth. But you got black men doing somersaults and cartwheels and windmilling, for JD Vance as if he's some kind of viable, leader or something like that, man. But vote blue no matter who, right? Who's advocating for what? Let's talk facts here. Let's talk facts. Don't give me conjecture. Don't come up on here and tell me that you want to see Kamala's agenda when you don't even plan on voting for her, right? These folks, and then I've uploaded the video this morning. These folks are talking about Robert F. Kennedy is a better candidate than Kamala Harris. Robert F. Kennedy is on record for saying he's against reparations for black people, man. How do you square the circle on this? You got a whole bunch of guys in the manosphere who um are against Democrats, which is their prerogative. But when they come on here, they make it seem as if, oh, she's just incapable of running the country. Doesn't sound like it to me. JD Vance just said out of his mouth. Harris fought for, black farmers and to get them the reparations that they need. Okay. And they were discriminated against. And this is the first time, this is the first go around for this. Um, before Harris got into the VP position, when she was in the Senate position, she was fighting for them, right? Guess who blocked it? You know who controlled the House in 2018? Republicans did. You know who controlled the White House? Republicans did. You know who controlled the Senate? Republicans did. Okay, Mike Pence was the tiebreaker. Oh, you don't believe me, Deani? Hey, let me pull this up for you. Yeah, let me pull this up for you. Right, push one in the chat if you can see my screen. All right, let me play this clip. Because Deani, I don't think he or she, I don't know what your gender is, but here's your clip right here.
10 minutes, he said the exact same thing that I was saying because it's obvious. Okay, some things, anybody ever played chess, right? If you're a chess player, right? Okay. After a while, there's only so many moves on the board because there's only so many pieces left on the board, right? Okay.
Exactly.
And the thing is, you can tell when someone makes one move, what the next couple of moves have to be because there's only so many pieces on the board.
The grand chessboard.
Yeah, it's the grand chessboard. The board is pretty much empty, right? There's no more moves. Okay, there's only a few moves left. So when they do something,
Brzezinski.
Yeah, it is what it is. So basically, at this point, it's really easy to kind of predict what they have to do. With this, it's like, okay, when they start clearing, like say like him or not, RFK Jr. should have been on the bench. Okay, like him or not. Okay, if I would prefer an RFK Jr. over a Kamala Harris as a Democrat. You hold your nose. You might not like all his policies, but thing is, he's much better suited to actually run the country than Kamala Harris, in my opinion.
Hey, BGS.
There it is, Deani. Straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, straight from the horse's mouth. He said that. Robert F. Kennedy has never held office before. To my understanding, he's never held office. He doesn't even have a ballotpedia available for him, which means that he hasn't held office before. And so I don't know how you come to the conclusion that Robert F. Kennedy is a better candidate than Kamala Harris, who he himself is against reparations. along with JD Vance, who's against reparations, with Trump, who doesn't even talk about reparations, with a Republican Party who's against reparations, and yet the focus of the discussion is about what's her policy, what's her agenda, right? You just heard from JD Vance. JD Vance said himself, Harris was the one pushing for black farmers to get their just due, their reparations. And these guys are saying that Harris doesn't have an agenda. Which one is it? Is she incompetent and can't run the country or as a VP? Or is it that JD Vance and RFK are better candidates than Kamala Harris? These are black men saying this. These aren't white people. These are black men saying this. Straight from the horse's mouth. Let me play it again.
To be because there's only so many pieces on the board.
The grand chessboard.
Yeah, it's the grand chessboard. The board is pretty much empty, right? There's no more. There's no more moves. Okay, there's only a few moves left. So when they do something,
Brzezinski.
Yeah, it is what it is. So basically, at this point, it's really easy to kind of predict what they have to do. With this, it's like, okay, when they start clearing, like say like him or not, RFK Jr. should have been on the bench. Okay, like him or not. Okay, if I would prefer an RFK Jr. over a Kamala Harris as a Democrat. You hold your nose. You might not like all his policies, but thing is, he's much better suited to actually run the country than Kamala Harris, in my opinion.
Hey, that's lightsaber. That's straight from the horse's mouth. Okay, he said this, so people can't say I'm putting words in his mouth. I took his stuff out of context. Nope, that's straight from the horse's mouth. A horse is a horse, of course. Okay. This is what's passing as intellectual discourse in the manosphere. No facts to back up anything he's talking about or they're talking about, making up stuff as they go along, have no idea what they're talking about, right? And so, what do you want us to do? We get accused, vote blue no matter who. Yeah, I would vote blue if I'm a black farmer. How else am I going to get my reparations? Okay. What are we talking about here? Let me bring up another piece as well. I think this is going to be really relevant.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, what's going on, man?
No, that's crazy to hear that. First of all, if you want to be on the bench, I don't know if this guy's been paying attention, but if you want to be on the bench, you got to be a senator, a governor, maybe a House member. But you got to be in one of those positions, or a key role in the administration, kind of like Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, and even then she went back to go be a senator as well, I believe, before she ran. So the idea that someone who's never even held any I think he's only done private practice his entire career. The idea that he's more qualified, it makes no sense even when you compare credentials, because I had a discussion with someone else. California has a population that's bigger than a lot of countries. It's bigger than Canada.
Yeah.
And if you're the attorney general, you're essentially managing one of the larger law firms in the country, as far as the number of lawyers that you're dealing with. So the idea that, I don't know how big his firm was, or if he was working more of a family office, but the idea that someone like RFK would be more qualified than a Kamala Harris, just on their legal basis alone, doesn't make sense. Now you throw in the fact that she's actually been vice president, and she's been traveling around the world, building relationship with these leaders, basically being the second in command. It's like it'd be like me saying, oh, the guy who is the associate head coach or the assistant head coach, he's not qualified to be the head coach. You know, some guy who's never even coached football before, they're more qualified. It makes no sense.
Let me read this piece really quickly here. This is from the SBA. SBA data shows major increase in loans to Black-owned businesses under Biden-Harris. The number and share of SBA-backed 7A and 504 loans going to Black-owned businesses more than doubled since 2020. Okay. Administrator Isabella Guzman, head of the SBA, joined Congressman Stephen Horford at the 2023 Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's annual legislative conference today to announce new data showing the rate of SBA-backed loans going to Black-owned businesses has more than doubled under the Biden-Harris administration. Quote, Black businesses are helping to power a nationwide small business boom that is creating jobs, advancing equity in communities across America and uplifting our economy, said Administrator Guzman. Today's benchmark loan numbers show our work under President Biden's Investing in America agenda making inroads to support more of America's Black small business owners. Despite these gains, we still have a long way to go. We continue to push forward with long overdue and transformational reforms to our lending and investment programs that will raise the bar of equity and the opportunity even further for all of America's small businesses. Quote, economic mobility and success are vital to achieving the American dream, but for far too long, small business owned by Black Americans have faced roadblock after roadblock on that path, said Congressman Stephen Horford of Nevada, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. Quote, I applaud the efforts of the Biden administration and the SBA to help Black small business owners succeed and grow. The growth in lending to the Black community and other underserved groups is promising news and is a result of direct efforts to reach more communities. The SBA has backed more than 4,300 SBA loans to Black-owned businesses so far in fiscal year of 2023. The 7A and 504 programs, total loan dollars, $1.3 billion. Overall, share of SBA loans is 7.5% to Black-owned businesses have also more than doubled since 2020. Under the Biden-Harris administration, the United States has experienced a historic small business boom being led by women and people of color with 13.1 million new business applications filed since President Biden took office, a rate of 65% faster than the pre-pandemic average, which is the Trump administration. SBA has taken major steps aligned with the president's Investing in America agenda to increase access to core capital programs, including among Black entrepreneurs. These include expanded the Community Advantage Program, which supports lending to small businesses in underserved communities, deploying the $100 million Community Navigator pilot program funded by the President Biden's American Rescue Plan, more than tripling the number of women's business centers at historically Black colleges and universities, HBCUs, forging historic partnerships with National Pan-Hellenic Council, Operation Hope, that's John Hope Bryant, implementing new reforms to address persistent capital access gaps. So here's what we know. This is straight from the government's website, okay? Oh, what is Kamala's agenda? What is she going to be doing? Here's her agenda here, okay? Kamala was heavily involved in this. While Biden was doing other things, this is what Kamala was doing, okay? Kamala was working with the Black farmers. You heard it from JD Vance's mouth. You know, the whole Africa agenda was Kamala Harris's agenda. That's straight from Anthony Blinken. He said it right out of his own mouth back in July. That was her agenda. She put that together. Oh man, I don't know, man. I, I'm still waiting for some policy discussion. Here's your motherfucking policy right here. Here's your policy right here. So this is what we're dealing with. Vote blue no matter who. You're a paid operative. You don't have to be paid to show the facts, bro. These are the facts. These are the facts. Well, I just want to know how she's going to deal with the deficit, man, because the deficit, man. Really? How come nobody's asking Trump and JD Vance about how they're going to solve the deficit? You know what Trump's uh answer to that was? Drill, baby, drill. That's what Trump said. Drill, baby, drill. Here you have actual legislation and evidence of Kamala Harris being involved in all these sort of major pieces of advancement for Black folks, and then you have these folks who want to vote for RFK. Think about that. That came out of this guy's mouth. Okay, came straight from the horse's mouth. RFK is a better candidate to run the country than Kamala Harris. Black people's access to the SBA has doubled from the Trump administration to today under Biden Harris. These were her babies. Okay, when I say her babies, I'm saying these were her task. Okay, these are things that she set out for. But we want to pretend as if RFK is a better candidate than Kamala. JD Vance is so well spoken, he graduated from Yale, who works against Black farmers himself, getting reparations, but you all think that these guys are going to be better to run the country. Go ahead, Nagone.
No, Mike. You were actually hitting it, right on the head. I had gotten on. I wanted to, just chime in on a couple of pieces. But what you're talking about is right on the money. They were also talking about the Divine Nine. What are they? That's the Pan-Hellenic Council. Who's a part of that as well. That's the Divine Nine as well. So these are all pretty big pieces. But as far as vote blue, no matter who, and talking all of that. All right, listen, nobody's telling you have to vote for the Democrats. Nobody's telling you that. But at the end of the day, where do the interests lie? Who is really looking after some of the bottom line here? And that's just a question. Let's go on the facts. We don't need to go on, any conjecture or anything else that you might have going on. What are the facts here? And let's stick to that. Let's stick to the facts. That's what we're going to stick to. Not misinformation or not any other kind of stuff that's out there that you guys might happen to think. So I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it at that for right now.
Yeah, let me play this piece right here as well. Just as evidence.
The gay men are coming out here sounding just like the Black women.
Oh, I saw that. They always do.
Yeah.
Basically, Kevin went. He basically went global years ago, man.
Remember that? Remember that simp that I showed? I think a couple of weeks ago. The light skinned dude.
Yeah.
Apparently, you pissed off the wrong nigga because I happened to stream past Angry Man, and Angry Man was calling him out.
Oh,
literally.
God.
I was like, oh shit.
Wait a minute, which dude is this?
I mean, he was taking pictures of all the girls every time he was at a place.
I'm sorry, I got the wrong clip, but just give me a second. I'll find it because there's a lot of things that's being said around here that are just untrue, and we're forced to correct the record. Yeah, just give me a second. Let me go through this really quickly. Renaissance, you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to just quickly say, it's not surprising because the whole RFK thing doesn't even make sense. He endorsed Trump. He said he talked to Harris and they didn't return his call, which I don't blame them. But there's already tweets floating around how this guy basically said, "Hey, Trump's agenda is dangerous. He cheated the American worker. Now RFK is trying to spin it into, it's my opportunity to save, and improve the food supply in this," which I'm like, at best, this guy probably got an attorney general role, which I'm not quite sure how that's going to be, that's going to allow you to do that. And on top of it, I'm like, when you look at Trump, if you pay attention to the recent rulings that have come out of, the Supreme Court, which Trump turned, very conservative. You have things like the Chevron doctrine, which is talking about, EPA enforcement rules. So it doesn't even make sense for RFK. Like, he's joined an administration or teamed up with people who are diametrically opposed to, his agenda. So he's not even making much sense politically where he's going. And, and then to say that, he's more qualified to be president than Kamala Harris, it just shows a level of just not thinking, of almost frankly insanity of suggesting that, he's more qualified. This guy hasn't even been vetted on the national level. That's what you're sort of seeing. That was sort of the risk with anyone. If this talk of open convention is, you see what happened with JD Vance when he came on the national scene, like all these things kind of just, he wasn't vetted, and all these clips just kept, popping up of him saying the craziest stuff in the world. That's the real risk you run when you talk about bringing someone onto the national scene, like that. So, RFK, there's, seems like every week we're learning about this guy, eating a dog, or like, putting a bear in Central Park. I mean, the guy's just kind of weird. So well, I'm not seeing any of this.
Well, you have to look at it very seriously. And I believe Mike played the statement before about RFK's family. But they look at this as a sad event in their family's history. This is just not an event on him, but a sad event in their family's history. Certainly not along with the assassinations, but this is an event that they look upon as something that is very bad, and they're looking upon their loved one RFK here as almost like losing his mind. So that's how they're really looking at that. You have to look when your family comes out and they make that type of statement against you. That's a problem, and they look at him as there's something wrong here, and they ended off with this as being a sad event. That this was sad. I don't know what more to tell you.
Yeah, push 1 in the chat if you can see my screen. Yeah, can anybody see my screen?
I see the screen you have up, Mike.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Interesting. Oh, they can see it. Okay. All right, let me play this really quickly.
And
she's
really,
she's been 20 years under him.
I'll be fair.
Fingerprint all over her.
I'll be fair. I didn't necessarily have a problem with the first part of the speech because you got to relate to people. But the rest of the speech, there was no substance.
No, it wasn't supposed to be. There's no substance there.
Yeah.
And then the few things she did say were actually lies. But
yeah.
I don't want to hear.
I spent time with Zelensky and warned him that Putin was going to attack him. Get the fuck out of here!
No shit, bitch. He's right there on my doorstep.
You know what, BTS is glad you said that. And Mike, I hope you're listening. I heard her speak. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me get this out. Mike, I hope you're listening.
Like, God damn, that bitch sound
like. Hold on, Charles. Hold on.
Oh, I couldn't hear.
Okay.
Charles, Mike, I hope you're listening. I don't want to hear shit about misinformation anymore. Shut the fuck up. That's because that's all the Democrats did is spread misinformation for the last 4 nights.
Oh, you just constituted a challenge.
Shots fired.
Yeah, shut the fuck up about misinformation. I don't want to hear shit.
So this is what we're dealing with here.
A moron.
Wait. So Mike, when Bill Clinton got up there and said that Democrats had created 50 million jobs to Republicans 1 million jobs, that was misinformation?
According to him.
I don't know. I saw some graphs floating around the internet that validated his claim, and he said he looked it up 3 times, but so I'm not sure how that's misinformation. Saying crime is at a 50-year low and pointing to the Safer Communities Act, I don't see how that's misinformation.
No, these guys deal in misinformation all day long, or non-information, and they sit on these panels and say the stupidest of things. And then when you come to check them out and you come to literally fact check them, they're nowhere around. Where are they now?
That's what I'm waiting on. I'm waiting on.
Where are they now?
Yeah, I'm waiting on Edward Anderson.
Ed, show up, Ed. Come on up. AB Media, forget about it.
I'm waiting on Edward Anderson. I'm waiting on AB Media. Okay, and I'm waiting on T. Riddler. Where these folks at? Okay.
They're in the clouds. They're listening. But where are they?
If anybody has access to Edward Anderson, T. Riddler, or AB Media, send them the link. Tell them to come over. There's an APB out. There's an APB out for Edward Anderson, Edward Allen Anderson, Albert Byrd, okay, and Trent Riddler. Or Terrence Riddler, sorry. Mr. Jones, what's going on? Oh, he's getting his mic together. While he gets his mic together, let me bring up another piece.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say, Mike, these guys are living in some hard echo chamber. I mean, how did you say she didn't talk about policy? That's insane. She talked about wanting to give extend the child tax credit. She talked about wanting to build 3 million homes. She talked about wanting to bring down grocery prices. Like, I don't see like how you're talking about there was no policy. Like, it doesn't add up. She touched on numerous things in the domestic agenda, as well as she even touched on foreign policy a little bit as well too, which some people didn't necessarily agree, but she could have skipped around that completely, and she touched the whole Israel Gaza thing. So that's not policy, but Trump rambling on about all sorts of things, talking about taking his shirt off and
Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, I mean that.
No.
This speech, like what are we?
Hannibal Lecter. The late Hannibal Lecter, like this was a real guy. The late Hannibal Lecter. Think about
it. It's just it's pretty mind-boggling, that people really think that she spread information. Like they fact checked the AP actually went and did a fact check. So I'm like, where was this misinformation that these guys are speaking on? They don't sound like someone who watched the speech or who watched any of the convention, to be honest with you.
No. They I mean, because their commentary is way off. I'm not going to count on listen, I'm not going to go in on an AB Media. I understand some of the issues he's got going on, but some of this other stuff going on here is utterly ridiculous. And these people were talking cash trash the other night, and come on up and defend your positions. If this is the case, and we're paid operatives, and we're spreading misinformation, come here and show that that's the case. Prove your point.
Yeah,
prove your point.
The other thing too, Mike, I think you got to also ask, if you're going to blame Harris for the border, does she also get credit for the things like the Inflation Reduction Act, like I said, Safer Communities Act, CHIPS bill,
CHIPS and Science,
CHIPS and Science Act, the moonshots for cancer? Like, if we're going to just say, oh, she's responsible for the border, that's all her fault. Like, are the victories hers as well? Because it seems to be people just want to put the border, and they don't want to talk about anything else. But that was actually successful.
But I mean, what did they think that she was going to be doing at the border? You think she was going to go down to Home Depot and get some plywood and some 2x4s and start building fences and stuff? Like, I don't even understand that whole entire logic.
Yeah.
The whole purpose of her going down to the border and going down to
She
I
went to
think
the
it was
Northern Triangle. She
yes,
went to
I think she also went to Colombia, if I remember correctly.
yes,
You know, her role was to investigate the root causes of the migration itself.
yes, and
Yeah.
it wasn't even wasn't necessarily in Mexico either, because there
Yeah.
are all sorts of people. Like I said, she was focused on the Northern Triangle, so Guatemala, Honduras, focused on those countries. There's one more, as well as, and she was focused on, like I said, root causes, and then she pushed for actual investment in those places, like deals, like billions of dollars to actually have investments to try to stabilize those places, so people would stop making the migration north. So this idea that she could have, closed the border or something like that, like where is it where does the vice president have any authority to sign an executive order to do
So
these things?
so on one hand, she's too incompetent, to be handling the border, but on the other hand, she has to be competent enough to give you reparations. This is the argument. What's
Can
going
you
on,
guys
Paul?
hear me now? I think I got the mic fixed. All right, cool. So, I just came back from the States. I was in the States for 3 weeks. And I got to tell you, all of this confusion that's created around something that's extremely obvious is 100% all manufactured bull crap. And I honestly think that right now is an opportunity to focus on something that is actually relevant coming up, because it looks like Kamala Harris, with the pick of that Tim Walz as a VP, like it looks like there is some room to pressure this administration to do some stuff that would actually be useful or more useful or continue the useful policies that have been implemented under Biden, right? Like she's left to this cat and Waltz is left to her. So there may actually be room for Black folks. When I was in the States, Ann Coulter, everybody know who Ann Coulter is? Was on this news show just spouting her same, racist, insane rhetoric. And she said, hold on, she said that foundational Black Americans, or the descendants of slaves, I forget what the terminology is that she used, but the exact same term, I'm getting ready to turn 50. The exact same term that I heard Tariq Nasheed use. So listen, man, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I can guarantee you that Ann Coulter's public profile don't have her being a fan of Tariq Nasheed. So that means that either one or two things. It means what I believe is that the ops, they just doing research on what Black people talking about and trying to confuse the issue, man. Because Ann Coulter cares as much about a foundational Black American as she does as a Caribbean or an Indian. She hates them all. She don't care nothing about any of them. But she gonna be the one to debate who gets what or what's fair for Black people. She obviously doesn't care. It's obviously all lies. Obviously, none of them want you to have anything. They just trying to confuse the issue.
Yeah, because to your point, who is she to be an advocate for something that she has no business in? How can she be an advocate for it? It's really strange to see Black men hang their every whim on white candidates. And I'm not saying who you should and shouldn't vote for. I'm just saying when you put everything on the table, you put Kamala Harris's resume on the table during being VP in the Senate, because that's really what matters here. Everything else prior to that really doesn't matter. What she's done in Washington is what matters. When you put her resume on the table and you look at a Robert F. Kennedy, you look at a JD Vance, who's only been in the Senate for 2 out of the 6 years and really didn't do much at all. If you really look at his track record, he hasn't done anything. Okay. And then you take in like a Kanye West. These folks really have no business being in politics. these folks have no business being in politics based on their own track record and based on their own inconsistencies political in political theater. They don't really have any business running against somebody like Kamala Harris. And what kills me is that they'll say, Mike V, you're a vote blue no matter who, you're a paid operative. But showing facts is now being considered a paid operative. Edward Anderson said this. Okay. Actually, let me play it. Edward Anderson said this. And to your point, Paul, it's easy for anybody to latch on to jargon, right? Cultural expressions, because it's trending. A hashtag trends, and you can pull up what's trending, for in terms of Black Twitter and some of these other platforms, TikTok and whatnot, and it will show you exactly what's trending. But people are making it seem like Ann Coulter is somehow a legitimate source for Black grievance or something like that. It makes absolutely no sense.
No, if you put Ann Coulter exactly in the place where she's coming from, she's talking really to white people. She's not talking to blacks. She's not talking. She broke on the Indians, sending them a message. All right, then saying foundational blacks, trying to maintain a certain level of confusion and disunity amongst the Black community, and telling white folks, look at this. Look at what we're dealing with here with these blacks and these foundational blacks and so forth. And we don't really want them a part of this scene either. But this is how these people are trying to link up, and let's be aware of what's really going on with these people, because this is a problem for us.
Yeah, let me play this.
That's who she's really talking to.
Let me play this excerpt from AV Media's Coliseum.
Nate Face live and said those police are not obligated to save those kids. And he also told him that his kid wasn't Black. He's biracial, and his racism calling him Black. So he believe y'all Black Guru, you right. It's payroll shit. And that is shit I don't respect.
These dudes that dude was comparing Kamala to Abraham Lincoln, man. Come on, man. That's a payroll shit.
He tried it with FDR too. They tried it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. 9/11 was nothing compared to COVID. Nothing.
Motherfucker, Kamala is more closer to Marilyn Monroe than she is Abraham Lincoln. She just Marilyn Monroe if she had a degree.
If she had a degree, yeah.
If she had a degree, it's literally the like, get the fuck out of here. And the thing is,
I would rather have Marilyn Monroe personally. Big facts. That's just me.
Keep in mind, he's a Pan-Africanist and he's pro-Black. Keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
And I'm gonna say this one thing and be quick about it. If COVID wouldn't have happened, Trump would have won. If he's such a bad president,
actually, I'll correct that. Let me pull this up for you. Yeah, let me pull this up.
No. If Trump would have actually handled COVID correctly and not denied it, but that's a whole nother.
That is correct. Had he handled that correctly, then he would have gotten reelected. He was incompetent.
Let me do a real quick reality check here, like for these cats. I left the States during COVID because there were 1 million Americans that had died by the time I left the States. 1 million Americans had died. And Trump was on stage talking about injecting bleach and light into your veins. He is a goddamn idiot. And 1 million people are dead because of it. So, like, I really think that this is just like the politics. It's the same thing as MAGA. It's Black MAGA. They're saying, like, these are the things to be afraid of. Here are the things that have aggrieved you in the past. They're just trying to create confusion. And honestly, I think that it's to the point where the opposition now, like, I think that the CIA that was infiltrating, like, the Black Panthers, those cats were effective and dangerous. I think that Martin Luther King got assassinated by forces that were effective and dangerous. JD Vance and Trump are bumbling morons, man. I love having these guys as enemies. And the only Black people that they can peel off are the ones that have significant problems with other Black people. It's amazing.
And you see that, and then they're trying to sit here also and say comparing Kamala Harris to Lincoln. No. We're talking about the presidents and their responsibilities to extreme actions that can happen when you are in office. You can have a pandemic, you can have a civil war, you can have all these different types of things happen, and you have to be prepared to deal with them. That's what we were talking about. But these people were too stupid to sit down and even try to make a cogent statement on that. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And one of them is a member of the Divine Nine. I think he might be a member of my fraternity, and I will deal with him later.
Well,
let me play this really quickly. Make sure people are on mute.
After the exhaust smoke that used to come from big rigs.
Do you feel like this administration is listening to you as truckers?
No, ma'am. No, they're not listening, not at all.
A mix of Republicans, Democrats, and independents.
How many of you voted for the president in the last election? 1, 2, 3.
Many of their complaints are unique to trucking, like parking costs and a lack of training for new drivers.
You'll receive.
But they say some of their issues affect all Americans, like the Republican-led tax bill.
How many of you, by a show of hands, saw your taxes increase this year?
Oh, they all went up, yeah.
1, 2.
Yeah, this year they went up.
1, 2. Yeah. All of you? So most of you saw your taxes increase.
The reason? Something called a per diem. In the past, truckers could deduct things like food and daily expenses from their taxable income. Now, with Trump's new tax bill, they no longer can.
I have a young family at home, and with our per diem, they took the per diem out. That made an $8,000 difference.
$8,000?
What I personally paid.
So what were you paying in taxes last year?
Nothing.
A hit that comes especially hard after promises made by the president.
America first means putting American truckers first.
You said you also believe the president would help truckers. Do you think he's doing a good job now?
No, I don't. I mean, there's nothing that he's doing to help us out here in any way possible. I mean, none.
Mr. Trump ran on the platform of doing away with the Obama bad regulation. Well, he quite well done that for, I'm going to say corporate America, but us blue-collar America, we've got regulations that we had when Obama was in office. And I would like to ask him, why didn't he do away with the bad regulations for us, the independent owner operator?
A trend they say should be concerning for everyone.
Have you all ever thought about quitting?
Yes,
Every day.
Every day. We want the American dream.
So I just wanted to play this excerpt really quickly because Edward Anderson seems to think that Trump was a better candidate at the time. Let me finish playing this.
You got to have more. Like, people talk shit about Bush. They got more than just the Iraq War, although that's the most prominent. Like, if you can't tell me that Trump wouldn't have won if COVID would have never happened, then everything you're saying is complete bullshit. And everything they stand is like all this babbling, this words. Nigga, okay.
You had triple-digit inflation under Biden. You can't sweep that under the rug.
And you've been under
Biden.
But
where did the inflation come from? It's not magic. It's not magic. I don't know. I don't understand why this is so difficult for them to understand.
In all this time with this bullshit that he's been doing, Kamala literally don't like to. They have to control when she actually comes. Like, get the fuck out of here.
You can't use COVID as that.
Here's the algebra. When smart people say dumb shit, it equals getting paid.
Yeah,
I hope so.
Let's hope so. Yeah, if not, that's bad.
No, they got to be getting paid. I don't believe. Look, I have my differences.
Yeah, I've had my
guys,
suspicions that they're getting paid for a while.
I have my differences with those guys. But I don't believe they are stupid enough to say the stupid shit they were saying without getting something from it.
Or they're campaigning for a job. This is the type of shit.
That's getting paid, Ed.
Yeah.
Listen to these plans.
Wait a minute. Now, I'm not lying on the Gone. I heard the Gone said, and Art, this goes to your point. This is one of the reasons why people look at the Divine Nine crazy. The Gone's the Divine Nine.
Well, there you go.
I don't.
Well, Nagone. He really showed you. He fixed your wagon.
That, first of all, he's retarded. Secondly, when we sit here and we listen to what these clowns are saying, it's utterly ridiculous. And what did they even break down? What did they even analyze? Think about what we said and think about what these guys are talking about. Just look at what they said. And we're campaigning for a job? I mean, Mike, Mike, the idiocy it's too great, man.
I mean, this is what's passing as intellectual discourse in the manosphere.
I mean, these guys are not intellectual. They're stupid. They don't have any facts.
Easy.
Okay, you're right. I'll back off on that. I'm sorry. I'll take that back. I'll take that back. They're very uninformed, and they're making ridiculous statements that they can't back up by any stretch of the imagination. They can't back any of this up. I just it's hard. It's actually laughable. I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, and I said I'd be very cool about that, but I can't make any sense out of anything. No analysis on this whatsoever. No analysis of what we said. All right, we looked at what a president's responsibilities are, what may come about if you become president. You can deal with things from that of a pandemic, or you could deal with a war. You could deal with a financial crisis. Anything can happen on a president's watch. You have to be prepared for all of that. All of it.
Leadership capabilities.
Leadership capabilities are critical. You have to, and you have to have seen some of this. Being around it certainly does help. We've seen presidents like what was the one right before why should slip my name right before Roosevelt? President Hoover. He did not hold a public office before. He came out, came out of the citizenry, became president. He got hit with one of the worst financial circumstances that you can be hit with. He couldn't handle it. The country went into such a depression. They started calling some of these settlements that were coming up after Hoovervilles, where there was such poverty in line, where soldiers who had come back from the First World War were literally camped out in front of the White House, literally, saying that they wanted their pensions and stuff like this from the military, and yet they were starving. And what scared them to death was you had black soldiers and white ones starting to link up together because they found themselves literally in the same circumstances. And then some other things changed from there, but I won't get all into that. But that's how bad things were. That can happen if you're president, But yet he had no public service, no experience. He couldn't handle that circumstance. Couldn't deal with it. And of course, he lost his office, a one-termer. So these are the examples, but these fools have taken this elsewhere. They sound foolish. So leadership is very important, and experience is very important, and being around it is critical. Anyway, go ahead, Mike.
No, I think that's it. I mean, they're accusing myself, you, and Amanda Tamara as being paid operatives, and that somehow we're in the pockets of the Dems, but somehow showing facts and doing analysis is considered to be in the pocket of the Democratic Party, while they sit up here on a panel and say that RFK Jr. is a better candidate than Kamala Harris, and then tell me that you're not in the pocket of RFK or the Republican Party. Really?
They sound more like the paid operatives. That's how it sounds to me.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me. That's what it sounds like to me. Because all of this, questioning of legitimacy of Kamala Harris, and no question on, JD Vance or Trump. No one's looking at his track record. No one's looking at, whether Trump, his acceptance speech was 2 hours. Kamala Harris's acceptance speech was like 20 minutes.
I mean,
Yeah,
his
Mike,
acceptance
the one
it was a
thing I'd
rambling
say,
diatribe, a rambling, sweating, discombobulated diatribe. Well, what was he even saying? Nobody's speaking about that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say, Mike. The one thing I found interesting is he said Trump was a better president. Ed needs, I think, explain why none of his former staff are endorsing him this time around.
There are no members of the GOP on the campaign trail with Trump right now.
I mean, they even had you had 3 or 4 Republicans who spoke at the convention who worked in the Trump administration, who said that they weren't endorsing him and he was problematic. John Bolton has come out and said he's not voting for him.
H.R. McMaster.
Yeah, all of these people. So I don't see how you think this guy is a viable president when numerous national security and just people in general have said, "Hey, we're not voting for this guy." It's insane.
Keep in mind, Colin Powell voted for Biden in 2020.
And you have to look at this. You have a former vice president who's alive and a former Republican president who's still alive, who hasn't been seen within 1,000 miles, not only of a rally, but of any type of convention these guys have had. What does that tell you?
I'm waiting on Edward Anderson, Albert Byrd, and Terrence Riddler to come up here, man. I'm still waiting. If anybody in the chat room,
they will not show.
This is an all points bulletin, an APB looking for AB. Have you seen him? Car 54, where are you? Where are these guys? I would like to know. I would like to know, where is Edward Anderson? Where is AB Media? And where is T. Riddler? Okay. Please send a link to them over the next 20 minutes so we can get them on the panel so we can have an honest discussion about now in November. Okay. Okay. Michael Steele. Yeah, Michael Steele voted for Biden. So it's not Democrats. I mean, is Michael still in the pocket of the Democrats too now? What about Colin Powell? Was he in the pocket of the Democrats? Was Obama in the pocket of Republicans when he spoke at McCain's funeral? Really?
Yeah. The other thing I will say too, Mike, I'm looking at the screen. This guy was given a super chat to the stream. He says, meanwhile, Obama had $7 trillion debt than Trump. I think more than Trump. Trump added more to the deficit in his 4 years than any president in modern history to the national debt. So I don't, we're talking about misinformation. Someone's in the stream is literally on that stream is literally super chatting misinformation. It's insane. We went on Code Breakers, went over a whole breakdown from Simon Rosenberg, and he showed the numbers on how the Dow performs on the multiple administrations, jobs created, GDP, national debt, all these things. And it all favors them. So these guys are not paying attention to any information whatsoever.
If you get that link, Renaissance, it'd be great if you drop it in the chat.
Yeah, I'll drop it.
Yeah, Chaos Rain says they may not come on your on the panel. You're actually wasting your time. Keep it real. Am I really? Am I really wasting my time? I mean, you be over there with them, Chaos Rain. You can hit the link too. You be over there with them. You be keyed up with them too. Chaos Rain, you can hit the link too. I mean, if they're not here, you can actually you can actually relay all this information back to them, because that's exactly what you've been doing the whole time anyways. Go ahead, Paul Jones.
So a little bit of a bitter pill. I want you guys to consider this. I think that you're completely right. But what I think is going on right now is the little, I don't know, call them sand fleas biting at your ankles, little dogs yapping, running around you. They're just there to create noise and distraction. I think what actually is really going to substantively help the Black community to a great degree is that child tax care credit Homegirl was talking about. You do that, that is going to significantly help working Black families. Like any of those programs. My biggest concern, I'm not even going to lie to you, is college tuition assistance. Because I got one kid in college, one going. That's what I care about. Like these dudes that's like saying a bunch of nasty pejorative stuff about a Black/Indian woman, arguing about like her ethnic makeup and if she's legitimately Black enough, that's been shitting on Black people and Indian people for the past 20 years, but now they super concerned about, like if Indian people can pass purity tests for Black culture, like all of this stuff, all of it, all of it, all of it is 100% garbage and distraction. I think right now, take a page out of, as stupid as Trump is, he's doing one thing that's smart. His campaign is rather. They're reaching out to more youthful audiences because I think, in my opinion, they just know that they've lost middle-aged and older voters. They're not going to make any more inroads. So they're reaching out to younger people. He on every podcast that exists. And the second thing is their strategy for trying to peel off the disaffected Black people, the disaffected Hispanic people, like through their appeals of, conservative values and religion, which of course they do not believe in, right? I don't think that those are bad ideas. And I think that if like more centrist people that are concerned with the Black agenda make that same sort of outreach, and unfortunately, this is the bitter pill. Instead of insulting hillbillies and Black MAGA, you got to talk to hillbillies and Black MAGA about the things that are of greatest concern to them to add to the coalition, because I think that's how you get more tuition assistance for middle and low income people. That's going to boost Black people up extremely. That's how you get child tax care credits. That's going to boost Black people up extremely. So my bottom line is this. It is very tempting to dunk on Black MAGA like they are buffoons. It is very tempting to dunk on these people that are obviously like being exploited, because even if you disagree with the chick's policies, you ain't got to attack her as a woman. That's not even manly.
But the thing here is all the things that you're talking about should be advocated for. Republicans are against it.
But you know what, though? I think that's legitimate. I think that that is the policy debate. That's how it's supposed to go. And what I think is happening, though, is that I remember Barack Obama was giving some speech about something and somebody yelled out nigger. All right. As the president of the United States, most powerful individual on the face of the earth, commander-in-chief of the U.S. Army, successful politician, millionaire, blah, 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 blah. Still a nigga, right? So what I'm saying is that the policy debate, they're not going to have an actual real debate because they can't win it. Their positions are indefensible. And so what they're going to do is they're going to put a Black face up there to try to defend the indefensible, and they're going to try to distract. I think it doesn't mean that the Democrats are perfect, because they do the exact same thing whenever it comes to anything like Palestine. Like they refuse to fucking talk about it. It's insane. But if I can get 75% of a loaf, I will take that over 0% of a loaf every single day. So I do understand what you're saying. It is not an illegitimate point. They will fight these policy initiatives. They will. They don't want to give up a dime. But like I don't know, maybe like a ADHD child or something like that, you got to keep redirecting the conversation. Like, and don't even make it about like, you are a fool, you are an idiot, you are a gun. Because a lot of them are. That's how you're getting peeled off. Because like the trick is so obvious and so dumb and it's been going on for so long. But I think you got to be like, oh, okay, well, but like what middle or low income tax realities are you facing that you can actually like that can actually help? Because I can almost guarantee you there are going to be liberal policies that will be much more beneficial to them because they hear tax cut and they think, wow, that sounds nice. I'd have more money in my pocket. But all of Trump's tax cuts were for billionaires. The tax cut that were for low and middle income people, they literally expired. They don't exist anymore. So if you're voting for this cat for a tax cut, it expired. It doesn't exist. You're voting for something that doesn't exist. But again, like they being fooled. They just being fooled. I think the bitter pill is bring it back. Even though they idiots, even though they disaffected, even though they just running a bunch of interference, building coalitions, I think is the best way to get the best policies that help middle and low income people the quickest. And unfortunately, Black people are vastly overrepresented in middle and low income and a lot of Black billionaires.
No, that is a true point. The only thing I would say, Paul Jones, is that from what I've seen, it appears Trump is going to, I don't think Trump's going to appeal to, I think he sees that he's losing. So I think he's going to, from what I've seen from Corey Lewandowski to, I don't know if you've seen that he is going to, he's having like a January 6th award ceremony. I think he's actually going to double down and actually try to pander more to his base going forward. I don't, you know, Nikki Haley, I don't know if you saw the clip, but she said, hey, you know, if we nominate Donald Trump, we'll get a Harris presidency. And she was saying, hey, that basically he can't appeal to swing voters and he can't appeal to the suburbs. And I think more and more that's becoming apparent. You know, just the more and more you hear this guy and you draw the contrast to Harris, because a lot of people, frankly, what it really is, a lot of people didn't know Kamala Harris. You know, she ran for president and everybody kept referencing back to she didn't have a good run, but, you know, she wasn't really of a high visibility, which you shouldn't be in an administration. So a lot of people didn't really have any sort of knowledge of her. And I think the more and more people have gotten to know her, she's just drawing the contrast of how unstable and how extreme Trump is, you know, in his policies. So I think if anything, I think that's the way he's trending right now is, you know, I'm going to try to double down. And, you know, frankly, if I'm to be frank with you, I don't know how many people on that panel, but, you know, I'd be willing to bet at least 50% of these guys who say they're Trump supporters, I don't think they're going to show up to vote. I was telling someone as well, you know, in a lot of these states where they're purging rolls and stuff like that, some of these guys may go try to, if they do show up to vote, they may find out their vote doesn't count because they've been purged. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of Dems will be out there doing that to make sure, you know, they're voters. But if you're sitting up here talking about you're a Trump supporter, you know, I don't see Republicans, you know, really trying to go and make sure it re-register you. That doesn't seem to be their operation. And I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, if you're really out here running around talking all this, oh, I'm voting for Trump. I don't see Dems being really like you being the focus of trying to get you registered as well. So, you know, that's my thoughts. And I think I've seen some data as well. A lot of these Black Trump supporters, they're considered low propensity voters.
Yeah, and low information as well.
You know what? I tend to agree. I tend to agree with that as well. And I would still say, I'd still make the same advice, and I'll tell you why. For every one of those people that are talking and saying a bunch of like crazy stuff, what I think you're really trying to do is reach the 10 people that are listening, right? Because most people don't make much effort or care much about politics because it literally just does not affect their life positively in ways that they can understand. So like they ain't got the time. They're trying to make ends meet. I was just back in the States and since 2020, literally the cost of everything has tripled. It's insane, man. I ran out of that place as quickly as I could.
Wait, Paul, what area are you living in right now?
So right now I live in a city called Taichung in Taiwan.
Okay. Now,
and we were just back in the States visiting, just visiting family for 3 weeks. And it was my first time back in the States since 2020. We left during COVID.
Yeah.
And like one of the things that we do when we go there is grab a bunch of snacks and supplies and stuff that we like to bring them back, to the Southeast Asian area so that we can have all our snacks and stuff. Literally everything in the States. When I left, a Big Mac value meal was $5. It's like $12 now. I took my family to Chick-fil-A, two adults, one college age kid, one high school kid. The cost was $40. Was it 40 or 60? I forget. I lose track because every place we went, everything was either $40 or $60. I started making a joke about it that everything is $100 in America. Everything is $100.
Yeah. Like, and I was going to quickly ask, like, in comparison, I don't know, because some of the charts I've seen, when you look at inflation, it is higher in America, but that it's even higher in places like the UK, other developed nations. I don't know if that's reflected in your experience with Taiwan, because it may not be considered in, like, the G7 of what people are comparing it to.
It's high everywhere. It's high worldwide. It's not, isolated.
It is nowhere near the G7. But let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
So true and not true, and this is my own personal experience. True and not true, because it is high everywhere. Inflation is high everywhere. And something's going to happen at some point, right? Like, we're not going to sustain this amount of inflation worldwide indefinitely. That just can't happen. But it is higher some places than it is others. And it's higher in some goods in some places than it is others. So no joke. Bacon in Southeast Asia, they don't really know what bacon is, right? Like, they give you ham and they think it's bacon. So I was getting everything bacon I could when I was in the States. Bacon cheeseburger at the airport cost me $22. A bacon cheeseburger at the airport cost me $22. Now, this is San Francisco, so I get it. But still, like, I'm like, this is like insanity. So inflation has run away. Now, if, like, I think that the debate about Biden caused inflation, listen, I think that's stupid. COVID caused inflation, right? Like, and Trump fumbled COVID, and Biden been trying to get stuff back together. That's just how it goes. Republicans ruin economies. Democrats try to fix them. That's how it's going for the past 75 years.
But you also have to look at, other issues that people are not talking about, like supply chain disruptions and so forth, that have played a big part in what's been going on, and nobody's talking about that. So why are we not speaking about that? But yet people want to sit down and say, hey, you could just with the swipe of the pen, erase all of this.
Yeah, let me play this actual clip. I don't want to spend too much time here than I can. Let me play this clip from Byron Donalds.
Approving legislation to create a commission on slavery reparations. The bill would establish a 15-person commission to study the effects of slavery and racial discrimination in the U.S., and then submit its findings to Congress along with suggestions for, quote, appropriate remedies. Here with his reaction, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, thanks for being here. Before we get to those appropriate remedies, whatever those would be, what's your reaction to the idea that we're going down the path of slavery reparations?
I'm actually not a fan of this at all. I don't think it's necessary today in America. Listen, we are already 2 generations away from the passage of the Civil Rights Act. We're more than 2 generations in America away from Jim Crow laws. Yes, President Biden, we're 2 generations away from Jim Crow laws. We are more than 150 years away from slavery. I think the time of reparations has long since passed. If we're going to be doing anything, we need to be looking at...
Hey, that's straight from the horse's mouth. Okay. All this talk about, Kamala needs to talk about reparations. She's not for black people and reparations. Hey, you got Republicans. There's not one Republican elected to office right now that is an advocate for reparations for black people, and even including a black man, including a black man. I hope the manosphere starts talking more about policy, because here you have Democrats advocating for reparations, and here you have a black man or Republican who's saying, I think the time is long gone for that. Any closing thoughts here?
Yeah, one thing. I was going to say one thing I want to say real quickly, Mike. Keep in mind too, there are people in Tulsa who are trying to push for reparations, and Trump-appointed judges are trying to dismiss the suit with cause so it can't be brought back. So his idea of, that was a long time ago. You have people who are direct descendants and survivors of that attack who are still alive, and frankly, these people are trying to make sure they die off so they don't have to pay them. That's one thing. The other thing I'd say too is Kamala Harris has supported reparations. There was a bill introduced by Cory Booker that she was a co-sponsor of that dealt with reparations that people really aren't interested in because they're not really interested in the whole issue. It's kind of something that's been weaponized at this point. So she has actually gotten behind and co-sponsored a bill that supported reparations that no one is talking about as well. And the last thing I'll say on quickly, just to touch the inflation thing really quickly, is there's definitely an element of greedflation as well too, because as Paul alluded to, some things have gone up, some things haven't. The hot dogs at Costco, I don't know if you all go to Costco at all much, but they've been $1.50 since the 80s, and somehow they're still $1.50. You didn't see this runaway inflation. So some people use this, some businesses use this as an excuse to jack up prices, and that's why Harris is talking about price controls and going after people who are jacking up prices as a means to take advantage of the pandemic.
Yeah, no, my final thought is this. These conversations are excellent to have, because if any of these jokers ever actually have a conversation like this in public with someone who's not on their side, they sound like idiots. So, and it will convince a great deal of people that, hey, wait, those type of policy positions make a lot of sense and they really would help me. So I'm all for these cats coming out loud and strong with a racism and misogyny, with a race baiting, and they trying to divide and conquer black people from Indians and all kind of other silly mess. I absolutely love it. And I think the more you engage people with these conversations, the more people are going to be like, well, no, I mean, it makes obvious sense that what they're saying is complete lunacy. And I think that it makes a big opportunity to push for some stuff that's really useful for the groups that I care most about.
No going 11.
Yeah, Mike. Listen, great live stream. Appreciate being up, and thank you.
All right. Waited over an hour for Edward Anderson, Albert Byrd, and Terrence Riddler, and they didn't show up. No call, no show. So make sure we dock their pay with a super sticker or something to that extent. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out. Share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.